Good morning. This is the Great Basin prescribed fire briefing for Friday, November 13th. Looking at the map, a few prescribed burns ongoing, these purple circles all throughout, and a few small fires, typically more of the 1/4 acre or tenth of an acre to less than an acre, scattered about here. We see the yellow and red circles. Looking at precipitation, it has been quite dry. The past 7 days, you can see almost nothing in Nevada, portions of southern Utah, southwest Idaho. A little bit wetter further north. You can see the percent of normal, near 0%, bone dry here across Nevada. Look at the 100-hour fuels. They have responded gradually. They are in the upper single digits in this gold shade and get progressively higher further north, but still basically all through southern Idaho on southwards, surface fuels dried out pretty good for burning. These are the 1,000-hour fuels. Again, upper single digits, quite dry in southern Nevada, up on the peaks where the heavier PJ is. As you get into the higher timbered areas of central areas, they are in the low teens. So overall, and even up in Idaho, parts of the Salmon Chalice also still in the low teens. That'll be changing in the next couple of days. We have a series of wet systems pushing into northern portions of the Great Basin. Look at the satellite imagery, and there's that one of the first waves of those types of systems approaching the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. We're in kind of a zonal flow, not quite high pressure, not quite low pressure. Some patchy areas of clouds here and there. I would say 50% clouds, 50% sun in a lot of areas. Near seasonable temperatures, but not that bad for burning. Overall, well, let's go to the left first. Little weak ridging to our west, but overall we're kind of in a zonal west-northwest flow. Storm system approaching, but still well offshore. On the right, the ventilation index, which combines both transport winds and mixing heights, shows areas in white actually have pretty good overall dispersion in a lot of these areas. It gets a little dicier further to the south, those areas in red. And then looking for later today, surface winds mostly light and variable in the blue shades. Yellow shades, wind speeds 8 to 10 miles an hour, primarily out of the southwest. You can see the humidities, how dry, bone dry in the south, single digits, and into the 20s and 30s, and then much higher further north. Transport winds, you can see also a little bit stronger on the left-hand side, areas in yellow to green, again, primarily from the southwest. But calm or very little wind further south. Vertical mixing in the sun, yellow to orange shades, 3,000 to 5,000 feet of smoke rise before it starts leveling off. Now for tomorrow, you can see that solid dark green across Idaho, western Wyoming, far northern portions of Nevada. That's where the steady precipitation will be. Snow levels initially quite high. They'll come down later on. Ventilation index on the right. Showing pretty good ventilation in central areas and even in southern Idaho. The only reason it's a little bit low further north is the cloud cover will prevent the sun from causing some good mixing. Looking overall for us on Saturday, we can see that, again, surface winds are coming from the south, light. Humidity, again, quite dry in the south, single digits, and then getting into the teens and 20s further north through Nevada and Utah, and then much higher with that precipitation, 70% or higher, mountains of central Idaho to western Wyoming. Saturday, the transport winds quite strong in western areas, northern areas, picking up a little bit on the ridges in a lot of areas, but still quite light with in the valleys. You can see these purple areas here representing a lot of the valleys where the inversions will probably last until late morning. Vertical mixing in a lot of areas other than the West Desert District of Utah should be coming up quite a bit as well. Now on Sunday, that one storm system or disturbance moves out into the plain states, but another one already pushing into the Pacific Northwest. Dispersion overall, ventilation index looks great. Most areas are in the white, so great overall dispersion. If you're not too moist to burn, could be a good burn day. Transport winds will be picking up on the left-hand side. You can see them out of the west, southwest, and in the orange, some transport winds over 25 miles an hour, lighter elsewhere. And again, dry humidity in the south, in that Goldilocks 20 to 35% in central areas, and not quite as moist. It'll be in between systems of precip in Idaho. So instead of 75% humidity, maybe only 55 or 60. Transport winds will be picking up. You can see them here, orange to purples, 30 to 40 miles an hour. You see those shades lighter elsewhere. Good overall mixing. The areas in red are like 5 to 6,000 feet of vertical mixing. Precipitation the next 3 days, dry south of the Idaho border, but once you get north, especially the northern edge of the Snake River Plain into the central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming, see the bluish shades. It's a ½ inch to 1 inch of precipitation. Some of it on the peaks will be in the form of snow, but snow levels will be a little high initially, so the first wave should come as rain. On Monday, this next wave will produce more precipitation. Snow levels may start coming down a little bit. Great overall dispersion, and we stay in that wet pattern in the north on Tuesday, maybe even getting as far south as the I-80 corridor in Utah. And then looks like the trough low pressure is splitting a little bit, and we see some more moisture into our southern areas as well as our north. But by Thursday, we get a break. High pressure builds back in with warming and drying. Good overall dispersion throughout in this kind of active pattern. So precipitation, this is Monday morning through Wednesday morning, mostly in the north, and then really starts to fall apart for a while from Wednesday morning through Friday morning. This is the total. We include all 7 days. And if we look at the longer range outlook, near normal temperatures to slightly above normal, precipitation looks to be kind of varied. It's going to be wetter than normal in far western areas, near normal in most other areas, but still that drier than normal signal across the eastern portion of the Great Basin. Now, looking just a bit further ahead, things to mention, we have a strong El Nino. These are warm waters off the South American coast, and that tends to alter the storm track as you get into midwinter, where the storm track drops further south, and you see the wetter than normal conditions we expect with that kind of a pattern. And you also see the warmer and drier conditions we expect with that pattern. And it's not going on now, but as we get into the latter part of December and then going to January and February, that is expected to be the prevailing pattern. This is the Climate Prediction Center seasonal precipitation forecast, December, January, February. An interesting dry signal across the northern Rockies getting to the central Idaho mountains, part of western Wyoming, and then along and south of the I-80 corridor, a signal of wetter than normal conditions. We'll see how that plays out, and that could set the tone not just for burning, but for how things develop for the start of next fire season. This concludes our briefing. Our next one coming up this Monday. We do these on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, except for holidays. Have a great weekend.